So excuse my bedragglement, but the bat signal's just gone up, i.e. I've just seen on Facebook Local that there's a BBC Micro in loft condition, and it's got some accessories with it, and it's up for £95, and I think it might make a really good little video for us all. So here we go.
Mark fixes stuff. This video wouldn't be possible without our friends at PCB Way. Whilst we're talking about BBCs, let's have a look at this project by friend of the channel, Tur Erik Bakalunda. It's an adapter that allows you to use digital joysticks on your analog Acorn computer. I might build one of these. If the computer works, just pop it in your basket, click buy, and you're on your PCB way.
Of course, you shouldn't really be buying anything else or collecting anything else at the moment because of downsizing. But you know, sometimes it's just got to be done. Who am I kidding? Who am I talking to here? You know, the urge is strong.
So we've got the BBC itself. It's very, very dirty. We've got a disk drive in this bag. We've got a television set, a Rediffusion, which I think, looking at the screen, is monochrome. And there's a box of software and what looks like a dusty old keyboard on the top. So yeah, we'll go through this together.
Hello everybody, here we are in the soon to be dismantled lab, and this is the biggest, dirtiest BBC I've ever got my hands on, and what a massive load, it's absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to disappear off camera now, and I think what I'll do is I'll move the camera so we can have a good old look at what we've got. We have a wide array of items here, and to be honest, for £95 it's probably worth it just for spares. There's some kind of computer stroke television VDU monitor arrangement by Rediffusion, a system alpha. We've got the BBC itself that's probably seen better days. We've got a box of tat, and we love tat, ending in a colour light pen box. And finally, in this vintage Marks & Spencer's bag, we've apparently got some disk drives. Let's get up close and personal with this dirty BBC first. Time to make some space. Despite the dirt, I've got a good feeling about this machine. It's just dust and it doesn't smell musty. At worst, I think this is just surface dirt. And as any BBC owner will tell you, screwing the lid on is completely optional. Let's have a look inside. Back in the day, this plug would have been as safe as houses, but these days it wouldn't pass muster. That's because it lacks the required half sleeving on the live and neutral pin. But let's live dangerously for now. And it looks like someone's done a crazy mod to this speaker so they can get a kind of audio output from the BBC. It's also come unstuck. The ROM sockets are bristling with an array of software, and I have no idea what any of it is. We can see this is an issue 3, and it's even got the AB Electronic System serial number. Brilliant! And in the IC78 location, we can see the disk controller that we'll need for floppy disks. All of the other required supporting chips seem to be installed as well. Now, usually with the BBC Micro, you'd need to recap the power supply, otherwise you'd let out the magic blue smoke. But my friend Mark Haseman at the Retro Clinic says that this one doesn't need to be done. Hooray! On a BBC, the top shells are usually the parts that get the most battered, particularly because this was meant to be a machine used for education. But no postcodes engraved on this top shell, just a thick layer of dirt. And the ashtray seems to have been filled in with some kind of clear polycarbonate. That's brilliant. So yeah, a wash should sort this right out, but that's another video. Let's look at this VDU. Rediffusion is a really interesting story. The company started life making equipment for trams back in the late 1800s, and using their cabling expertise, they moved into distributing television signals over cable. This technology is all but forgotten, but rediffusion boxes in the walls of houses were a common sight years ago, and this happened in the late 1940s. This desiccant sachet is dated 1995, so our monitor can't have been put away before then. This TV was really carefully packed, and we find another desiccant sachet, this time dated 1996. Rediffusion started their own TV channel, which eventually morphed into Thames and spawned LWT. And as we can see, they made electronics. In the end, the company was taken to bits by venture capitalists. A sad end for a pioneer. Around the back of our VDU we've got some slightly odd connections. There's the standard for the time 5-pin audio input DIN, a potentiometer for lowering and raising the level from said DIN, there's a BNC connector which outputs composite video, there's an earth nut, weirdly there's a standalone control for colour on the back, so this must be a colour unit. And there's something called the plinth input. I have absolutely no idea what this is. Now I don't have any BNC connectors, but luckily I do have an RGB to SCART connector. But that doesn't help us today. Boo! So in this case we're going to use our cable from Retro Computer Shack. I've ordered a BNC connector so we can test this another time. When I first saw this I thought it was a television, but now that I know it's a dedicated computer unit, I'm really curious to know its capabilities, like can we put RGB into this plinth input? Anyway, questions for another day. Let's pop it away for now. Really is quite lovely, isn't it? To test our BBC we're going to need to put it back together. And by back together, I mean stick the lid back on. In true BBC owner style. I've spoken to many BBC owners and they often tell me that case screws are optional. That's because they're always popping inside to change ROMs and muck around with settings. The BBC was a very configurable machine. Yes, I know. Don't hate me. It's an LCD but needs must, and I just want to see if this BBC even fires up. I'm not too worried about the PSU going bang because Mark from Retro Clinic told me that this is a linear PSU so it should be fine. So let's go for it. Microphone for beep evidence. I'm actually bricking it. If this goes bang, I will scream. And that familiar BBC screen is quite reassuring. Nice! Alas, there's another problem because the keyboard doesn't seem to work. I do notice that fiddling around with this ribbon cable can make the keyboard work on and off, so that's an issue that we're going to have to come back to later. I also noticed that subsequent power-ons of the BBC seems to bring it up in a different screen mode. Maybe one of the ROMs wasn't quite in its socket. I genuinely don't know what the answer is to that. With the BBC at least partially tested, it's time to put it away for now, I'm afraid. I really can't start any extra projects. If you don't know, I have to downsize my operation due to the costs of the space I work in. It's time to attack that Marks & Spencer's bag. Inside the bag we find a printer cable and a housing for two 5¼ inch disk drives. It all feels very hobbyist. Right down to the cable. Looking at the back of the unit, we can see there's been some inventive soldering. Crumbs, Penfold. Without looking it up, I think this is for the drive select line. If we look inside, we'll probably find some logic for switching between the drives. And our custom wiring seems to have seen better days, with one of the wires just flapping around with nowhere to go. I'm sure we can find where it reattaches and perhaps tidy up this work. Screwed to the bottom of the case on what looks like some hand-etched PCB is the logic we were looking for. The drive latch mechanisms seem fine. And looking in this drive, there's actually a disk still in there. Actually, the surface of this disk looks like it's seen better days, but you can't really judge with 5¼ inch disks because they're quite robust. Again, this is a project for another day, but what a lovely find. I was initially thinking this could be a good housing for a Gotek, but to be honest, I'd like to keep it how it is and just get it working. Box time, and I think this is actually dirtier than the BBC that I was handling earlier. There's a keyboard. I'm not sure why this is not in the computer, but it might be a clue as to why the keyboard on the computer doesn't work. Good for spares if nothing else. I wonder where the spacebar went. Moving on, we've got that colour light pen. The box barely opens, but when we do get it open, we find a very industrially designed looking unit. This was cutting edge stuff back in the 80s, so it's incredible to think where we are these days. Over in our software box, we've got a copy of MiniOffice 2 that could really do with a bit of a wipe. But inside, everything's clean as a whistle. The floppy disk looks like it's in fantastic condition, as does the ring-bound instruction booklet. I love the different colours in these. When I have a pickup like this, I always check the diskettes to see if there's any kind of mould on the surface of the diskette, but that looks perfect. It's probably only ever used once. Let's whip through the other stuff as quickly as we can. I can tell that in this box there's more than just a copy of View. Not only do we have a copy of the Acorn Soft Open Day program for Revs, but we also have the manual for the game Revs itself. This game was sensational when it was released. And then there's a bunch of cassettes. One contains the light pen software, but the others are all pretty much packing titles, so I'll go past these fairly quickly. And there's the tape for that copy of Revs. Lovely. There's also a printer driver generator manual for View. Good lord, having to make your own driver. There's a really cutesy note about where the computer was bought from. I'm a big fan of the handwritten stuff. I think it really is a window into another time, like these notes that the owner has previously made. And then we find some more floppy disks. This one's Penny's disk. I wonder where Penny is now. And that printer driver generator diskette. Exciting stuff. So, all told, nothing too exciting in this box. Let's put it all back in so it's a bit tidier and safe. It's a tight fit to get so much BBC in one small box. And we have that Revs window sticker. This is pretty cool. Something to be treasured. Let's see what else we have in the box. We've got the ubiquitous user guide that everyone's familiar with. A pack of DSHD floppy disks, and they all seem to be either unused or unlabeled. They all look to be in really good condition though. There's a very dusty printed version of the Acorn Disk System user guide. These were so well written. There's also printed instructions for the Enigma Disk Imager ROM, maybe used to dump tape software to disk. And another printed manual, this time for the word processor WordWise. A copy of the advanced user guide for the BBC Micro, and this is in really good condition. I'm not sure how advanced our user got with this. And a loose copy of the View reference card. There's a loose diskette of something called Betabase by Claire's. I'm not sure what that is. And some more floppy disks. Oh, so many floppy disks. But I'm not complaining because most of them look unused. And the ones that are used have things like the operating system or this. The Morse Trainer program. No idea. Although we could have a cheeky look at some view files before venturing to the vital zone. This bunch of disks has something on it called ACAD. Now I'm going to make an assumption that this isn't AutoCAD for the BBC Micro. So can someone tell me what this is? Just seeing all the floppy disk retail boxes is like a window into time. And with that, we're scraping the bottom of the box. This looks like a page from a flight simulator manual. Copied instructions for Pico Computer. It looks like someone was really learning machine code. And more instructions, but this time for Aviator, which is probably where those other pages came from. The final thing in the box, apart from dust, is the instructions for that light pen. That's awesome, that makes that a full set. Just the dust, the dirt and the detritus remaining. So there we have it, my BBC pickup. Bit of cleanup there to be done. It's, yeah, a bit grotty, but it is dry and grotty, which is very important, as many people will tell you. So looking forward to trying this. I've got the BNC connector on the way. We'll try it with that, see what that keyboard issue is about. Obviously it all needs to be cleared up. I'm not very au fait with this sort of stuff, so if you see anything that's interesting, let me know. And if anyone's got any hints or tips about any of this, let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. Thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, and also a big thanks to my amazing patrons who are appearing on the screen right now. Where am I going to put all this? I'm literally meant to be getting rid of this stuff behind me. I have a disease.